What's up, everybody? This is another episode of COVID Community. We are traveling clearly, like we're moving spaces, and I guess, as Armand would say, the movement is moving. So we're trying to make sure that we keep things fresh, and it's super dope to have these conversations in different places. So we're on site at New Birth Christian Ministries in Columbus, Ohio, and we got some interesting things to talk about today. So. First, want to check in with my co-host Armand. How you doing, bro?
I'm hating on both of y'all right now, cause like I look crazy, and y'all look crispy or recently crispy. I haven't had, I haven't had anything sharp touch my hair or my beard in like 6 weeks, and y'all like.
But you got the kiss. I mean, you like.
Nah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, nah, you good. You
Nah.
good. It's an offset happening right now.
I gotta offset because this is crazy right now. So that's how
Good.
I'm feeling right now. How are you? I can say you look well.
Yeah. I feel great, and I'm healthy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like at some point you just have to accept the plug that you have. You know what I'm saying? And take part. You know what I mean? So yes, shout out to the plug. You will remain nameless, but yeah, we are in the stage of reopening Ohio, and I feel good.
I told my wife, like, yo, them speakeasies is popping during this time. Like, whatever you need, it's available. You just gotta know. You just gotta wink and nod. It's around. It's around. It's around.
Yes, it is. Yes. So that's Armand's commercial. Whatever you need,
Whatever
it's
you
around.
need, it's around. Don't hit me up.
Yo,
I'm
we
not
got
the plug for that.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Who's asked if I'm the plug? Not for that.
not for
Sorry.
that. Yeah. We got a special guest. We are guests in his spot today, but we got Yaves, Ellis, pastor, rapper, entrepreneur extraordinaire. What's up, bro? How you feeling?
Man, I'm glad to be here. Just so we can get the animosity out there, since he already got his out. You know, when Taylor told me that y'all were starting a podcast, I was like, dang, he didn't ask me to come on a podcast yet to be a co-host. So I'm just happy that I finally got on the podcast. I've been seeing the shows every week. You know what I mean? Saudi lightweight, like, dang, I hope I get a call to be on the podcast.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Me and Yav low-key started the whole like video presentation movement on just like a spur of the moment.
And that's when he told me that he was doing it with you too. So I'm like,
yeah. Hey, listen.
right? That's what he did. Like, this is a crazy idea. I'm gonna call our mom. We gonna do a podcast. Nah, I was so excited though that you guys were doing this though. To be honest,
We're pastors.
Yes.
So we've been holding each other down in different
Yes.
ways, like just from a sanity standpoint.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity for me to create space for like healthy conversation outside of just this crazy commentary out in society. So yeah, bro. Like we, of course, like you was on the list. Like we had to incorporate.
But now, on a serious note, I'm really glad you guys are doing this. Only because, and I would say, just hearing Armand for years, talking to him for years, like there's a wealth of knowledge that I feel like people don't understand that he has. So I want to give you your flowers while you're here, for one.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's important that people like that get a chance to be able to say that on a larger scale. And so I was excited when you even said that you was bringing Armand in, just because of the wealth of knowledge that both of y'all have. So I'm just excited, man. I think this is dope, and I'm looking forward to see where this goes.
Yeah, bro. And you be kicking knowledge too. Mad knowledge. Egyptian knowledge.
Trying to kick knowledge.
Yo, so we're in a pretty interesting time in society. Obviously, with COVID, the podcast called COVID Community. But on top of all of that, there are certain things that never change. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, one of those things that never change for us is being black. Being black in society, and I say unfortunately because the black experience brings out a lot of pain, and it brings out a lot of hardship. It's not something that always gets presented in the most positive light. Now we understand that we can own blackness in a sense where there is joy to celebrate. There is a story and a narrative of overcoming these types of situations, but we take the joy and the pain, as Frankie Beverly and Mays would say. We merge that into a holistic experience, and today we're visiting with the pain. So the Ahmaud Arbery situation is pretty fresh for us right now. And I've had several conversations about this. I've listened to some commentary, not too much because the pastoring side of life is a lot. But I wanted to have some open discussion with you guys just about how you're processing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you both have unique perspectives about blackness itself, social commentary, and also we're all believers. So like we're trying to be honest about how we feel, but at the same time rely on a hope that goes beyond this stuff. So I guess like you could share some thoughts about where you're at today.
Well, I will start off with when I first was made aware of the video. I was sick to my stomach, only because you can see the fear and the fighting for my life, even from the far angle that we seen. And so, just putting myself in that situation, that was a sickness that fell on my stomach. And what was even more sick about it was me thinking to myself, okay, what can I do? So I've been in a place where whenever something happens, especially in my city, that I find a way to mobilize people. I find a way to get people together, whether it be as a pastor, whether it be as an artist or as a businessman. I find a way to do that. And with that particular scenario and situation, I sat there and watched it, and I was sick because it was another time that I felt like I had no idea what I could do to help the situation. That helplessness is something that I think black people have dealt with for a very long time, but even more is magnified in this particular COVID time, because right now, most of us are being told, stay in your house. We're being told when you go out, wear masks. We're being told, it's almost like we've almost lost all of our privileges. And then you go and you see this video happening and you feel even more helpless. So me seeing that happen was just, it was heartbreaking from just a pastor standpoint and a black male standpoint. But then now looking at it as a father, it's scary to think that my son's going to have to grow up in this world. My daughter's going to have to grow up in this world and maybe deal with some of those same things. So I'm still at the place where I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what can I do here in Columbus to affect change so that when my son and daughter get to that age, they don't have to deal with that same thing. And I'm excited and happy to see that those guys have finally got arrested and that they denied them bond. I mean, that was a win, right? But the other side of me is saying that the goal is for conviction. You know what I mean? So now we're jumping there. But I will celebrate the win of them being arrested and bond being denied. But that's kind of where I'm at.
It's good. It's good, bro. What you thinking?
I don't have fully formed thoughts yet. I guess my experience is different. My black experience is different and unique in the sense where I grew up the token. So being a military brat, like I was always the only black kid in the class. Ironically, I've never been called a nigga to my face. Never. I can count on one hand how many times I've experienced overt racism.
But is that because they see you fight first, or how does that work?
I don't.
They just knew, like
I don't know, bro, because like
with their hands on.
Right. Yeah. Straight
I
up.
don't know because like I have no idea. I don't know if it's just being a military brat. Every couple of years we move, so it wasn't like somebody knew me from elementary school and they knew how I got down, and I didn't think I was tough until I got to high school. Like, when I started rapping, then I was like, who won't, you know what I'm saying? Prior to that, I was just hooping and playing video games. But I don't know. So so because my experience isn't that, I have to rely on other people to kind of say, okay, like I understand in theory that this is a horrible thing, but like I want to like in many instances I feel like I should feel it more. Yeah. So then there's a guilt there where when it happened to Mike Brown, I felt it. Mm-hmm. When we saw it happen over and over again over the course of 6 years, I felt it, but I slowly stopped feeling it. And it just became something else. And I'm not one of those people that needs to watch it in order to understand it. I don't like watching people die in movies. So why would I sit there and willingly watch somebody get murdered in real life? Like I was never the what those movies that was out when we was younger, like Faces of Death or something like that, where they would.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that was like a thing that people enjoyed watching. I'm like, how do y'all enjoy watching this? It's so crazy. So, so I initially, and it's layered. There's much to get to, but I kind of want to throw the conversation back to y'all. But it's like at this point, I hate cycles, and so I can't even celebrate the arrest. The bond, the denial of bond kind of pricked my ear, like, oh, word? Like, but then it's like, okay, so then if trial happens in another year, we've long forgotten about this. We're inundated with COVID, and many people are just trying to stay above water. And, you know, it's like, do we even have the energy to keep going? Because this is a generational traumatic thing. And then, you know, here comes the cycle. We're outraged, and then we want other people to be outraged like we are, and then there's justice, and what does justice mean? Like, justice means different things to different people. And then there's a conviction, and the conviction doesn't really suit well with everybody because justice hasn't been defined, and then we watch somebody else get killed. So it's hard for me to, like, jump in and say, yo, like, of course this is terrible, but, like, beyond that, I haven't gotten to a place because of my experience and just, like, to be honest, like, I'm a little jaded, like it's getting old, and it's like I don't know how to deal with that. So I gotta, like, rely on other people that I trust, like, okay, this is, and I stand behind the people and how they feel and those things, but, like, beyond that, for me personally, I'm still processing it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's interesting, bro. Like, even as you're saying that, like, you're right. Like, the cycle of the way we respond, kind of, it is predictable. You know, it hits this fever pitch high level of outrage, and, you know, everybody's sharing and posting, and then it comes to the question of what is justice. You know, why is that different for everybody? Because I think that there is an objective definition of what justice is. It is arresting. It is withholding bond. It is taking them to trial, finding them guilty, convicting them, and having them serve life sentences. That's justice. Like, you know, that's, if someone asks me what's justice in this case, that's my answer.
But I think the issue is that for black people, and I feel the same way, we still will feel like that's not enough because it can continue to happen again, and
True.
it probably will happen again. And so for us, this is like a roller coaster of emotions, like kind of what Armand said. I love the cycle concept, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I know for a fact that's what's going to happen with me. Like, I was excited about bond being denied, and now I'm like, you know, but for black people, we want bond to be denied, and we want them to be convicted tomorrow. Yeah. And the trial may not happen for another year, and right. You go through, where most people are going to forget. And so for us, even though justice may get served next year, it didn't happen while we were angry. So that didn't appease us enough, right? Because right now we're angry, so we want something to happen right now. But we have to wait for the justice system to go through and do what it does. And in the meantime, there's going to be other things that are going to happen that are going to distract us from this. So, I don't know, man. That's the danger, I think, about social media. That's the love and hate about it. Is because for our forefathers and those who came before us who didn't have social media, they had to go out and they had to march and they had to do sit-ins and they had to do things that, you know, caused people to take notice. But with our generation, you know, everybody ran 2 miles yesterday or whatever it may be. And I'm not knocking anybody that did that. But I'm saying some people may do that and go, you know what? I fought the system. You know what I mean? I fought the man. But it's easy to do that on social media, but maybe it's because we don't know what else to do.
And there's no cost. There's no sacrifice. There's no skin in the game. When you do that, you just get to look like it's a competition for perception. You know, like, you get to look like you're a part of something, and yet what does it look like to sustain? You know, like, even if you use the running metaphor, like, if you run at a certain pace, then you can sustain for a longer time of jogging. You know what I mean? But if you just sprint out the gate and say, yo, this is it, and then you run out of steam, then, I mean, at the end of the day, what was your contribution? You know what I'm saying? And maybe we did need a certain amount of outrage on the front end in order to get this visible representation of unity, but the cycle comes back into play when we see the same outcomes. and not just in the outcomes in us, but the outcomes in the system. And that's to me the discouraging thing, and that's why I'm trying to define justice in the sense of what do you want to see happen systemically? Like, what do you want to see the criminal justice system produce? You want to see them produce something that gives us hope that if something like this happens again, there will be consequences, there will be accountability, there will be change that literally causes individuals like that father-son to hesitate before they act. And that's what I want to see, bro. Like that's where the apathy gets broken. And you're like, yo, there's some hope out here. Yeah. But where we are is in this cycle of hopelessness because we keep seeing these outcomes systemically.
And it clearly means that if they're doing that because they feel like they can.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you think of a child, there's certain things that a child, what's the challenge going on right now where you set the fruit snacks and like don't eat the fruit snacks. Right. Some of the kids is like, going for it, but some of them know, like, yo, if I do this, I'm gonna get in trouble, so I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of the characteristics of real justice would be preventative. You know what I'm saying? It would be proactive and not necessarily reactive. Yeah. Because if they get convicted and sentenced to life, or if they get the death penalty or whatever, okay, but then those are two people out of billions of people in the world, and like, of course, the mindset that a lot of people have is like, well, that's them, that ain't gonna happen to me. Right. It's not enough to like make somebody not want to harm another person, especially another black person, for no reason. So do we rely on, because now it goes back to the definition of justice, do we rely on a system that has time and again shown that like we can't trust it, partake in it? Like how are we relying on, like how are we talking about, our government and all these things and how corrupt it is and whatever, but then it's, connected to our judicial system, but then we rely on them for justice. Like if one system is broken, then the brokenness is going to carry on to the next system. So it's hard for me to just plant and say, yeah, we want them to do this and this is going to happen. Well, how do I know? And how do I know that you have our best interests in mind in order to do that? So it's hard for me to jump in and say, bro, like, I'm with you, I'm riding. It's like, it's far, like, bro, it's hunting season. Yeah. And we have, what are we going to do besides, so then they get mad and then we want to, arm ourselves. And then they want to implement gun control. And then we say, well, we want to, do things like be self-sufficient communities.
Police ourselves.
You know what I'm saying? What the initial intention of the Black Panther Party was supposed to be. Yeah. Even down to being able to only grow certain amounts of food like in your backyard. Like that's regulated and restricted. Like they're like, how do you want me to trust in that? You know what I'm saying?
Welcome to being black. These are the internal questions, the external questions we always process. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's interesting that we find empowerment in understanding one another's circumstances. Like we can find empowerment in that because it gives us a voice. We can tell people what's going on. And if we can tell people what's going on, then that gives us an opportunity to respond in different ways. Because I don't know if it's a one size all fits answer as what we actually do. Because you're like, to Yaves' point earlier, it's just like, you see something like that and it's just like you kind of slump your shoulders like, man, but what can I do? Some other person can say, we about to get 10, 15 people in a couple of vans and we finna drive down to that courthouse and make sure that they got time to do that. And then those of us who are sitting back like, man, I don't have that to do. Like, I really don't have it at all. What can I do? We have voices as pastors. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we talk all the time about what pastors should be doing to connect with the community more. Like, what kind of things have you seen? I mean, just for yourself, if you practiced even before you became a pastor to be a Christian that's connected with the community?
Shoot, I mean, a couple weeks back, me and you had a chance to go to a community planning meeting for a group here that was protesting for against police brutality. And we ended up being the only pastors there, and really only 2 out of 3 black men who were there. So this is a protest for police brutality against black people, but it was only 3 black men there, and maybe a handful of other black people. Everybody else was, white, Asian, other kind of races, and it was like maybe 60 people in there. And so for me, it's important to be in those spaces now as a pastor, for them to be able to see that, hey, this church in particular, we're interested in hearing what's going on, and not just hearing about it, but actually figuring out how we can also affect change and be able to stand with you. And that's something that I learned early in my life. My parents, growing up, it was kind of interesting because my mother had dealt with a drug addiction. My father wasn't around, but she made sure that she put me in places where I was able to learn. And so I was in this Rites of Passage program where on Saturdays we would go to the mosque. So the Nation of Islam, I was with them on Saturdays. Then I went to a African American Spiritual Awareness Crusade. That was the name of the church. African Awareness Spiritual Awareness Crusade. Okay. And so on Sunday, I was learning about, how important it is for black people to band together as believers, what it looked like to see black people or Africans in the Bible. And then on Saturdays, I was back at the mosque. So growing up, I didn't have a choice. I was always learning about, fighting back, learning about community. And so I kind of carried that over into my business career and into my music career and into pastoring. And so I think for any pastor out there, it's not about you having the answers. It's about you being willing to sit down with other people and be able to have dialogue. People who don't look like you, people who don't believe the same things you believe. A lot of people in that room that we were in, they did a thing where, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I don't care. They did a thing where you had to go around and say your pronoun. And that was the first time I ever had to deal with that. Like, I almost messed up because I didn't know what to say. I'm like, so what do I?
That's real, yeah.
You know what I mean? What pronoun am I supposed to use? Like, I was not aware of that whole concept. So that was a learning curve for me. Yes. And I think that's the important thing that we got to be able to do in these particular moments is be willing to learn. But after I learn and get the information, figure out how I can mobilize and actually affect change. And I think that's where people are dropping the ball. Like, we're willing to come and learn, but we're afraid to actually mobilize. And that's my challenge to pastors, whether you black, white, whatever it may be. What are you going to do to mobilize your people to be able to affect change?
Yeah, and that's where you start that's where people start to drop off, because then you start to count the cost of like actually affecting change, and you may not even get the rah-rah support. You may not get the people who think you're doing a good thing. They may actually think you're a disruptor, and you're actually you're doing things to set us back. And I mean that just puts you in a good category with other people.
Yeah.
because I kind of want to push back on like when Yav brought it up. Like the people who are running, like they're running or whatever, like it's kind of a weird thing that social media does where like it ends up being self-serving, and it only puts you in a positive light. But anybody that we champion from Martin on down, they put themselves in positions to be taken advantage of, to be manipulated, to be exploited. Like, you have to put yourself in that position in order to really affect change. The way that people generally talk on social media, they're ready to put themselves in that position. But when it really comes down to it, and that's the starting point. Like, bro, just get to the table, sit in a room, and put your phone away and look somebody in the eye who don't look like you, think like you, see the world like you do, and like be willing to come together and like help that community. Because as believers, and especially you two as pastors, like I just talked about this on Clock Radio Speakers, like, yo, we end up having to serve people that reject and deny our belief system, our Lord, you know what I'm saying? And we have to push that to the side and still help them. You know what I'm saying? But like, all right, cool, I ran 2 miles and I took a selfie and posted it. Like, that don't like, I guess that's cool for you, but I'm gonna push back and be like, bro, that ain't enough. If you gonna do it, then do it. You know what I'm saying?
Or if you're gonna do it, at least allow it to be a part of the consistent efforts that Correct. You put forth to be a part of affecting change.
Thanks for cleaning that up for me.
Nah, because like that's how I feel. Like what you just said is like, at the end of the day, it's hollow to just post, your 2.23 miles if those 2.23 miles aren't even being mobilized in a way to actually do anything. It just helped your physical fitness. You feel me? And you said it's for him in memory of. Okay, that was yesterday. Now today, you got another 2.23 miles to walk somewhere else.
You was gonna run anyway.
Yeah, I feel me. You feel me? Like, or can you do this every day until something happens? Like, that's a protest that looks like what our ancestors went through, is to say, we're going to do this every single day until this. I'm going to post my time and everything every single day until this changes.
But also, all right, but to your point, so, and I don't want people to feel like we dissing them for running, but I do feel also.
I'm not, but go ahead.
But I feel like there are certain people who maybe social media, them running, that's their way of just raising awareness, and that's where they stop, right? Because if you look at every single movement, you know, when you look at Martin, you look at Malcolm had to have a secretary, Malcolm had to have an enforcer, Malcolm had to have X, Y, and Z. So there are certain people who may be just a part of the movement. So I think you have to figure out what part of the movement you are. So and if you own that, if you own the fact that, hey, I'm just somebody who likes to post and bring awareness, then that's how I bring awareness, right? I may not be the person that goes out and marches, or the person that goes down to the state house, or the person that is actually trying to affect the legislation laws, right? So I think that's important too, that we recognize everybody's place within the movement and be able to celebrate that, but own it though, right? So don't front like you're about being on the front lines when really you're really just cool with like kind of posting on the back end and, you know, putting a Wix site up or whatever, which is cool. Like, but say that. That's my issue.
Say that.
Say that.
Yeah, and I mean that is it, bro. And I mean, again, the social media era is just so interesting in the way that people are engaging with real issues, because at the end of the day, we can't lose sight of the fact that a life was lost. Like, a person died. You feel me? And it's not just for us to gain followers or gain influence. It's like somebody's gone. You feel me? Like, Mother's Day's happening in our timeline. It's tomorrow. Mother's Day's happening, and this mom doesn't have her son.
His birthday was yesterday.
His birthday was yesterday, and these are real things. So if you're you know, like you said, you're creating awareness around this kind of thing, you've defined that that's your role. I'm stepping in, and it's consistent. It's not just for this thing because it gains a certain amount of traction, but it's for any kind of thing that you become aware of. This is my role, is creating awareness. Then that's what's up. But if it's just to kind of join in the sauce of something that you don't really understand, but you know that it has some sort of mainstream popular cultural effect, then you got to check yourself. It's not like, you know, the equivalent of taking a selfie in front of the Fruit of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Like, they all marched and lined up and standing, and you here with the camera like, yeah, I'm out here. Like, and you like, nah, you ain't in the fruit. You feel me? Like, you're not out here like really trying to affect change. You're just in the environment where change is being talked about and being sacrificed for. Defining it. I love that. Like, bro, like actually defining your role and making sure you're consistent with that.
Do either one of y'all know how the video came out?
So I was listening to the Breakfast Club interview. This is the sick part, bro. The lawyer who is involved in the case, who's representing Ahmaud Arbery, he says that the video came out because it was already circulating amongst the father and the son's friend groups. So they were sharing it almost like bragging, like, you know, look at what we did. So this wasn't like the guy who took the video felt convicted and took it to the police and said, look, this is a horrible thing. This was being shared amongst their inner circle, and somebody just decided to anonymously send it over to the police department.
It's like sharing when you caught a fish, or you know what I'm saying, when you killed a deer. Like, you got the picture and you showing everybody, like, that's sick, man.
Yes, there's definitely white supremacy world star.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they straight up, like, it was like, look at what we did. And at one point, the lawyer also shared that at one point the father was on social media bragging that his son is the one who took the shot and killed him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a moment of honor, a moment that they should be commended for. And then just think about how bold you got to be, not only to just do that, but to then like make a moment amongst your friends about it, and then post about it on social media. Like, that shows how sick our systems and society are, because this is a former law enforcement officer. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he took matters into his own hands about the narrative of the story. And this, again, we cannot undersell the fact that this kid got killed, this young man got killed on February 23rd.
That's what I was leading to. February.
February.
2 months ago.
They've been in the streets, bro. Like the murderer's been in the streets.
Yeah, they talk about that with Orlando Anderson when he killed Tupac. Like he was out there bragging about it. Like he wanted the clout, as the Yaves say, to go along with like, yo, I'm the one who killed Pac. He wasn't that tough. He da 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 da. And like after a while, it circulated and it got out. So this is just that on a whole other scale. Like that's crazy. We post our latest pickups. Like, yo, I got this sneaker.
Yeah.
And these dudes is posting like murders. Like even to go back with because this happened again with the kid who got killed in the police shootout, or not the shootout, the high speed chase that ended in a shootout. Like that happened. When did that come out? Like the next day.
Yep.
And then he was on Facebook Live, which is a whole other thing. I don't know why these kids is jumping on Facebook Live, why they getting into shootouts, why they doing illegal activity. That's a whole other discussion. But homie was on Facebook Live. He ends up getting killed, and then the police are like bragging about it, like as he's dying or immediately after he
gonna
dies.
Be a closed casket, homie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Crazy.
But that's the society that we're in, and again, like, if you're going to be consistent bringing awareness, you got to bring awareness to all of the injustices or the things that are in the same category. And, you know, there's reasons for people to do that, reasons for people to hesitate.
You gotta get your Sean King on.
No. No.
Yeah, go ahead, jump into
I threw that alley-oop.
No.
Jump into that.
I'm not a Sean King fan. I think, you know, it's almost like, you know, it's like
He's Don King for social justice.
I think that he can serve a role in certain way. Like, he provides information, but when you're dumpster diving, you feel me? Like, it kind of brings a disservice to, I think, the idea of society as a whole. If all you have to contribute is the worst elements or the worst assumptions, then to me that kind of stifles your credibility a little bit, because you can promote a narrative that all police, individual people, all police officers are bad, racist people. And that's not the point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't go there and then legislate an attitude or an idea against people who are actually trying to do good work and impact change from that standpoint. You can critique the system, you can critique the system, how it's set up, but there are people who've infiltrated the system who are actually trying to do good. But when you just throw that out there and you're irresponsible and all you do is present a negative image all the time, then I just don't believe that's a valuable contribution to society as a whole.
That's the danger with platforms, though. Like, you know, what is it that gives me the credibility to be able to say these things? Is it because I have a verified check on Twitter? Is it because I got 100,000 people who are following me? It's like, what qualifies me to be able to have this platform that people are going to, come up under and follow me? And I think that's just the danger of this generation and what we're dealing with right now, is that everybody can have a voice. The beautiful thing about it is everybody can have a voice. The bad thing about it is that everybody can have a voice and have an audience.
Yes, and with that, I think we've gotten out a lot of our feelings and our emotions about this particular scenario, and it may sound hopeless. It may sound altogether, like a lament. You definitely got to shout out that pound cake. Do I still have some? Yeah, we got to shout that out. That's next. We have to get out the fact that we lament over this stuff. It's like, we can't be in a hurry to find the bright side. You know what I mean? We can't be just in a hurry to where we just don't feel this. We should feel it. We should mourn. We should grieve. We should be grieved as a society. But at the same time, like, as followers of Christ, like, we aren't hopeless. Like, you bring these laments to God. And I'm the type of person, like, when I pray about a situation or a circumstance, I believe God is going to act. You feel me? Like, just in the same way, if I pray for somebody to be healed, I believe God is going to act. You know what I mean? Like, maybe not in every circumstance in the way that I expect, but I just trust God to be good. You feel me? So like if he's gonna be good and he's going to do good in the midst of a painful circumstance, then that's just him being true to his character. So I don't feel hopeless. I feel angry, I feel exhausted, I feel like, I'm running a hamster wheel, a cycle sometimes or whatever. But then I also step back and realize that God is in control. And I find like real peace in that. Otherwise, I would be drinking myself to sleep. Yeah. You know what I mean? As a black man in this country, like James Baldwin said, is to be black and a citizen of this country is to be in a state of rage all the time. And I understand that. And I would be angry all the time if it wasn't for the peace of God. You feel me? So like that's my take on it. There's people out here talking about eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Yeah. It's time to go get these dudes and handle it. The same way they was talking about Nipsey. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand that sentiment, but as a Christian, I have to understand that that was a sentiment directed towards me, like where God could have just eliminated me. You feel me? Without His mercy and His grace. So that's where we have to take a different turn on the whole thing. It's like, yes, it's cool to express anger, grief, and all that different stuff, but to not just ultimately end in a hopeless place or just a consistently angry place. That's not healthy, first of all. Like, you got high blood pressure and hypertension if you're black. So just woosah or do, read some Dr. Sebi or whatever. Do something to get yourself, balanced or whatever. But that's ultimately a place that we can find ourselves trusting and hoping in this God. So y'all tell us about this pound cake, bro. Let me finish my piece while you tell us about this business.
Tomorrow, when this airs on Wednesday, tomorrow will be Buy Black Thursday. This is a local business owner called GG's Sweet Treats, and this cake, man, it's next level. They'll tell you, it's moist, it's everything that you need in a pound cake, and I felt like it was fitting since we're in a church to have a black pound cake inside the church. Whenever you go to grandma's church, after church, you go down in the basement and they got the refreshments, and refreshments are usually the red juice, the pound cake, chicken, everything. That's refreshments. So we had GG's Sweet Treats. Shouts out to her. That's a nice shirt you got on today too, man.
Thanks, man. I went, what was it, the Flea?
Okay. Streetwear Flea.
Streetwear Flea?
Yeah.
That's where I got it from.
Streetwear Flea is black owned too. Shout out to Deontay Johnson, James Drake for doing the Streetwear Flea. So, buy black tomorrow. Support black business.
This is a real black episode.
Yes.
Like, we just got into pain, then we got into pound cake, then we
eating our pain away.
That's what we do. That's what we do with our pain. We eat and we shop.
Yes. That's real.
So true. So, hey, look, man, this is good. It's good. And we pray. We do that too. We pray.